Hello, today we will talk about quasi-Newton methods. They are based on approximate model of inverse Hessian, which is obtained on the base of gradients which are calculated during the work of the algorithm. So we don't need compute Hessian matrix and invert it or solve Newton system of equations. Therefore, a step of quasi-Newton method is significantly cheaper than a step of Newton method. On the other hand, in efficiency, quasi-Newton methods are more efficient, quite often more efficient than conjugate gradient methods for nonlinear functions. So here is the general course of the algorithm. Like in Newton method, we compute Newton direction, in this case Newton-like direction. So we multiply our approximate inverse Hessian by gradient, take minus, and this gives us Newton direction. Then we perform inexact line search in this direction, compute gradient in new point, and then on the base of history of our axes, arguments, and gradients, we are able to update the model of inverse Hessian to make it more accurate for future iterations. Now, let us talk how to approximate the Hessian. Denote the last difference of axes as pk and difference of gradients as qk. We know from definition of Hessian that Hessian multiplied by differential of x should give a differential of gradients. We can use this expression in finite differences fashion. Hessian multiplied by increment of x should give increment to gradient. This would be approximate for nonlinear functions, but for quadratic functions, this will give exact relation. What we write here, ah multiplied by pk, should be equal to qk. And this is the famous so-called secant equation. Another idea is to keep the update of the Hessian simple. We will use so-called rank 1 update. New Hessian is old Hessian approximation plus vector column u multiplied by vector row v transpose. This is called rank 1 update. And we will ask this update to satisfy secant equation, which is written here. After we open parentheses, we get a rather simple expression for vector u, and v can be any vector. Still, the secant equation will be satisfied. So we can put additional requirements on v as well. For example, we know that Hessian matrix is symmetric. So if previous model was symmetric, we want the update also to be symmetric. And this will happen if u and v will be collinear vectors. For example, we can require that v will be just this expression in parentheses, because this is a scalar, what we write here. And in this way, we get a really simple expression for update of Hessian. New Hessian approximation is the old one, minus this scalar expression multiplied by rank 1 matrix v transpose. So we have a rank 1 update for the Hessian, approximate Hessian, but what we want update for inverse Hessian. B, we will denote it as a B. If we have a secant equation for Hessian, if we will multiply it on the left by H inverse, we will get pk is H inverse qk. Or in other words, B qk equal to pk. As we see, we get a kind of secant equation for inverse Hessian, which looks very similar to secant equation for original Hessian, only P and Q swap the places. In this way, we can automatically get similar formula for update of matrix B of inverse Hessian. We just take formula for update of original Hessian and swap places of P and Q there. So we will denote other vector. It's not original vector V, it's other vector V as pk minus bk multiplied by qk. It's similar to this formula. And we will have corresponding update for the inverse Hessian. Another way to get to the update of the inverse Hessian would be to use the Sherman-Morrison formula. It says that if I have an arbitrary matrix A and add rank 1 matrix U V transpose, I can compute the inverse in easy way if I already know the inverse of A. And this is the famous formula. It includes A inverse, some scalar expression, and here A inverse multiplied by U and multiplied by V from the left. At home, I would propose you to try to prove this formula, and the way to prove, easy way to prove, it would be to start with the matrix A identity matrix. So it would be identity plus UV transpose, and A inverse would be also identity in all places. So if you use this formula and take update of the Hessian, which is written here, we can easily come to update of the inverse Hessian. If we use rank 2 update of inverse Hessian matrix, we can get to the state-of-the-art quasi-Newton methods. What is rank 2 update? We add 2-column matrix U multiplied by transpose of 2-column matrix V. We have more degrees of freedom in this update, so we can satisfy more requirements. We can satisfy not only secant equation, but also require new inverse Hessian be close in some sense to the old one. And measure of closeness, we will use so-called W norm of matrix A, which is obtained as multiplication of square root, matrix square root of W by A by square root of W and taking Frobenius norm. So if we use W Hessian matrix in the neighborhood of our current X, we will get state-of-the-art BFGS method. Broyden, Fletcher, Goldfarb, and Shannon, those are authors of the method. If we use W as H inverse, we get DFP method, Davidson-Fletcher-Power. And also we automatically will satisfy requirement that our approximation of Hessian will be positive definite, which will stabilize the numerical process. Broyden family of quasi-Newton methods expresses in very simple way continuum between BFGS and DFP method. We will denote auxiliary vectors Sk as Bk multiplied by Qk. Again, Qk and Pk are written here as increments of X and increments of gradient. And some other variables as tau k, mu k, and Vk. And update of inverse Hessian looks rather simple, and it's written here. We have here 3 terms, and the last term has free parameter lambda k. which can change continuously from 0 to 1. If lambda k is 1, we get BFGS method, which again is the best known for today. It's method of choice for quasi-Newton optimization. And if lambda k is 0, we just remove this last term, we get to the DFP method. One more important remark. We need some conditions on line search in order to guarantee that updated Hessian matrix, inverse Hessian matrix, will be positive definite. And this is so-called second Wolf line search condition. If we are staying at the point xk and we are going in direction of dk, we can plot our function as a function of step size alpha as one-dimensional plot. And what we want, the slope at the final point which we will choose as a result of line search will be less negative than the slope at the origin when alpha is 0. And this is so-called second Wolf condition. We can choose a constant which is called C2, say 0.9. So less negative means greater. So we want the slope at xk plus 1 will be greater than C2 by slope at xk, by slope in direction of dk, directional derivative. Sometimes people require so-called strong Wolf condition. Then they put absolute value on the slope at the original point and in the final point of line search, and require that final slope will be in absolute value smaller than the original slope. Several more technical issues. How to start matrix B inverse Hessian model? The most straightforward way would be just to use identity matrix. More accurate, if we have some idea of inverse Hessian, diagonal model, or even constant diagonal model with some constant, reasonable constant numbers on diagonal, it would be better to use it for initialization. Also, interestingly, if we start with identity matrix and use exact line search, after n iterations, where n is dimensionality of x, we will get exact Hessian on the one hand side, and on the other hand side, the method will be equivalent to conjugate gradient. The Broyden family of methods become equivalent to conjugate gradient methods for quadratic when the function is quadratic and we use accurate line search. But when function is not quadratic, quasi-Newton methods usually converge faster than conjugate gradients, and the important advantage that they do not require accurate line search. Therefore, if you have enough memory to keep an inverse Hessian model, usually it happens when we have not more than several thousand of variables. BFGS quasi-Newton is the method of choice. It also has a so-called superlinear convergence rate when it achieves solution. It means the distance to the solution point divided at new iterate divided to the distance at previous iterate goes to 0 as k goes to 0. There is a very important modification of BFGS method. It's called limited memory BFGS method. It doesn't require storage of Hessian matrix or inverse Hessian matrix, and therefore we can solve huge problems with hundreds of thousands or millions of variables. I remind you that we get the new inverse Hessian approximation by rank 2 update. The previous one plus 2 column matrix multiplied by 2 row matrix. Let's look from the beginning of the process. Assume that we start with a matrix B0, which is proportional to identity matrix. Then we add first rank to update. We get matrix B1. Then one more rank to update, get matrix B2, and so on. At iteration k, actually we don't need this matrix. We want to multiply it by vector of gradient in order to get approximate Newton direction. But we can do this multiplication in economical way without explicitly computing the matrix, because those partial matrices are of small rank. How can we do? We can open parentheses. Let's see what will be if we multiply matrix alpha I by gk. It will be just alpha multiplied by gk. What will give us second term? U1 by V1 transpose by gk. We can put the parentheses in this expression. So we have row matrix of 2 rows, V1 transpose multiplied by gk. This multiplication can be performed just multiplying first row by gk, it's n operations, n multiplications, and the second row by gk, it's also n multiplications. As a result, we will get a small vector, column vector of size 2, and multiply it from the right, multiply u1 by this small vector, and this will give us another 2n operations, and in this way we will get this final multiplication. And so on for the next step, for the next term. Again, 4n multiplications, and so on. So the first k steps of quasi-Newton of BFGS will, in this way, will require, roughly speaking, 4k multiplications. And this is the basic idea of limited memory BFGS. Even if we are staying at very advanced iteration, we can think that about our process, which is started only, say, 10 iterations ago. And we store those vectors u, for example, uk and vk, and uk minus 1, and vk minus 1, and uk minus 10, and vk minus 10, and compute similar formula, and get a new quasi-Newton direction. Interestingly, this method, which we obtain in this way, it's limited memory BFGS, LPFGS, is very efficient, and it's considered today as a state-of-the-art method for many very important classes of nonlinear optimization problems. You can find this implementation of this method in most of scientific computing libraries, and one of the important implementation is so-called MinFunc implementation in MATLAB, which is freely available on internet.